When was your first competitive drifting?
My very first event was in the States. Ever since I started competing FD, winning the championship was my goal of life.
What were some of the things that didn't work?
It was a brand new drift car, and then I totaled the car.
Pikes Peak. Why did you decide to challenge this monumental mountain?
I remember I watched on TV back in 90s or 80s. So ever since I've known that event, back in my head, I wanted to do at some point.
Okay, Mr. Yoshihara. Yoshihara, 2011 Formula Drift champion, 2022 Pikes Peak Unlimited Class champion and multiple time attack champion. We have the champ, Yoshihara, in the house, guys. Welcome, Dai.
Thanks for having me here.
All right. Okay, so this is going to be a conversational podcast. So, I've known you for quite a long time now.
Yes.
Probably be about 20 years.
20
plus years, right?
20 plus, I think.
We were both still living in Japan when I first met you, right? And you were not a professional driver at that point.
Well, yeah, I guess I was still driving. I was already driving Formula Drift, but the series wasn't as established as nowadays.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
so we've done many interviews, and I think today we should talk about like the things that our new audience, the racer audience, would probably be interested to learn about you. But also touch on things that maybe we've never talked about before. Right?
Oh, okay.
I probably interviewed Dai for more than 100 hours.
Yeah, I think you're the one who interviewed the most,
right,
in my life.
I think I have that record. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. But it's been a while though, right?
Yeah. No, it's been a long time.
It's good to see you here.
Yes. This is our new studio. You like it? You like our new studio?
It's super dope.
Yeah. So it's 2025, and this is called the Creative Drive by RACER.Podcasts. Have you ever seen or heard this podcast?
Yes, of course, because you're doing it.
Okay.
I've seen some stuff from the Instagram.
Yeah.
Here and there. I didn't really listen every single episode, but yeah, I hear something.
Okay, great. All right, so let's start from the beginning here. So you did not start out karting like many professional drivers, right? You probably didn't. You were probably late in terms of like when you started driving professionally, because you just kind of went the regular route. You waited until you got your driver's license, and then you started driving a car, right?
Correct.
You weren't in a car like when you were 12 or 13.
No.
How did you start?
Like you said, I guess it's the regular way, but nowadays it's the opposite, because all the professional driver starts from the go-karting from very young and all that stuff. But I'm from like a regular family. Didn't really have a support from the parents, so basically I started just driving the regular car on the street. So I don't know if I should say, but I was one of those street racer back in the days. So that's how I started. So I was just driving as a hobby in the beginning, but I had a chance to compete in the States back in 2003, and then from there on, just like right timing, meeting right people, and yeah.
So when you were driving in Japan, you were basically driving the toge, right? The mountains.
Yes.
Right? Which car were you driving, and how did that happen?
So I started off Toyota A86 Corolla. That was my very first car, but I drove maybe 5 different cars in the next 4 to 5 years. Mainly Nissan, like Skyline and 186, Silviers. Yeah, so quite a bit.
So did you have like a group of friends that you, went to the hills, the mountains with, or how does that even happen in Japan? Like you get your license, right? And like, were you watching like videos, or were you watching Initial D or Option, or how did you get into the whole scene?
So before I got a driver's license, in Japan, when you get 16, you can get a motorcycle license. So I was riding the motorcycle 16 to 18, and then I had a crew goes to ride with every night, and then everybody getting the driver license when we get 18. Most of my friend actually didn't really move into the hashiriya, which is like a toge, like a driving stuff. Everybody else, mostly like low riders and the VIPs, they still like cars, but not really the racing kind of stuff. But I still have a few friends that starting the drifting together, and that's how I get into it. And of course, option video was one of the biggest Bible in a way. So that's how I learned how to drive. I watch. Well, sorry, take it back. Actually, Tsuchiya's the drift Bible.
Yeah,
that video was actually a real teaching method. You did something, right?
Yeah, we did the English version.
That's the English version, but at the time, of course, I couldn't speak English, so I watched the Japanese version, and I remember I watched like more than 100 times, and whatever I absorbed that day, I just go to the mountain road and then just try and then come back. Yeah, that's how I actually self-taught, but indirectly, Keiichi taught me.
VHS, right?
Yeah, VHS.
Yeah. So that video was called in Japanese, Keiichi Tsuchiya's Super Drift Technique.
Something like that.
Yeah, and so when we introduced that internationally, we translated that video and we named it the Drift Bible, and it came out. That came out like in 2000, maybe 3 or 2 or 3
that early
in the U.S. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That was one of our first ones that we did, and that really kind of put us on the map because everybody was like very thirsty for Japanese drifting video, kind of like a how-to video, right? Because there was no internet back then. There was no YouTube back then. So I think a lot of Japanese drifters saw that video for the first time and learned how to drift, right?
Yeah, so I was one of them.
Yeah. So your first car was a Hachiroku,
yes.
right? And you bought that car for very, very cheap, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It was like $200.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's ready to drift. I just need to register, which costs more than $200. But yeah, it was, so that year actually initially started. So it was like starting to know, but wasn't as popular yet. So the 86 was just one of those like old car that you can drive. So yeah, again, $200 was kind of like a normal. It's not like a super good deal. Yeah.
Now they're super expensive.
I know. It's like 100 times like literally, right? It's crazy. Yeah.
And so when was your first competitive drifting then? Because you were just doing it for fun back in the day.
Yes. So I was just doing as hobby for like maybe like 5-6 years. So yeah, 2003, my very first event was in the States. I never competed in Japan because I didn't really try to be a pro driver or anything. But I just had a opportunity to come here and compete in the D1 Grand Prix driver search, which was like an audition for their very first event in the States. Yeah, so that was my very first time.
So that's the event that Jim and Ryan was the U.S. people, right? The partner.
Right, so Jim and Ryan from formuladrift now, but back then they were helping to promote D1 USA. So yeah, that's how I met them in the first time too.
So without competing ever in Japan, what was going through your mind when you came to the U.S. for the first time and you're suddenly like a guy from Japan that's competing in the U.S. For the first time in front of Japanese judges, right?
So yeah, that was kind of confusing. I think, at the time, Tsuchiya-san, Orita-san, those people, judging, right? And of course they don't know me. And I think they thought I'm from here, meaning like I'm like a Japanese American guy or something. But it didn't matter. And you're like, Yoshihara! I remember them yelling your name, and they were like yelling your name because it was Japanese,
right? So
Yeah.
I think they felt like, oh, this is like a Nikkei kid.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But you know, for the skill level wise, I wasn't sure I was good enough, of course, because I was just doing it for a hobby and never competed in Japan. But one thing I knew, like wherever I go to in the like toge spot, I was usually one of the good one. So I know I wasn't gonna be sucked, but yeah, just not sure how I can perform, right? And also the US side was like that's just the beginning of drifting, right? So the level of drifting here was a lot lower than Japan. So that's pretty much the reason why I was able to take the opportunity to. So they basically pick a driver and move into the main event. So I was one of the 8. So that's how I started.
Who was in that 8?
There's a lot of them that you might know. Chris Forsberg, Van Gitten, Sam Hubenet, Reese wasn't there, I don't think. But there's a few more that, sorry, I couldn't really.
Ken was in there too.
Oh, Ken wasn't there. Yeah. Hubert Young, Calvin Won. Yeah, so pretty much, all these people were from that event.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they did have a pretty good eye then, right? Because all the guys that they chose pretty much went on to become professional drifters in the US.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, whichever platform you're on, and leave some comments. We actually read every one of them, and it's actually great for the algo. All right, back to the show. Did you suddenly get a seat? Were you offered a seat right away? How did that happen?
After D1, were you talking about D1?
Well, D1 eventually went away, right? Well, they did a couple events.
Yeah, yeah.
They did a couple events. You did pretty good, right? And then Formula Drift was launched.
Right. So I met this guy, Jerry Tsai, who used to own the brand called Pacific Rim. So I drove for him for the D1 event. And then, the FD, we hear about the FDs starting in the following year, which was 2004. And Jerry's like, oh, we should do it. So we just tried to get the sponsor for that. And then we were lucky enough to get a few sponsors to start the season in FD 2004. I think Yokohama Tire was one of the sponsors, and a few other companies supported our program.
And you were still commuting from Japan at this time, right?
Yes, at this time I was still living in Japan, and basically, so 2004, I think they had only 4 rounds. So basically, I fly from Japan for the event, and then stay for another few weeks and go back to Japan. So I was doing that for like 4 or 5 years from that point.
And did you have a day job during this time? You still had a day job, right, during this time?
I did have a day job, but of course, because of that lifestyle, I couldn't keep doing it. So I quit, and I was using my saving, which wasn't that much, for a few months. But I basically started the part-time job when I was in Japan, actually like kind of like a FedEx, like doing like a warehouse work here and there. Mm-hmm. But of course, that I can't really do that all the time neither. So we came up with the idea to sell some parts from Japan to the US. So I was doing the eBay stuff for a long time, actually.
Yeah. No, I remember.
I think you remember, right?
Yeah. You were doing the eBay stuff. Yeah. You were calling it the eBay stuff. So what were you selling to the US?
A lot of JDM parts. So I think people still do it too. But back in the days, the internet wasn't as big. So the price difference between the parts in Japan and the States are huge. So like JDM spec, like a tail lights, headlights, like front grille, sometimes like the spoilers, it couldn't be big items, but the smaller the better, like clusters, all these like JDM spec parts were like really easy to sell, and it was easy to buy in Japan too.
How are you marketing this? Just on eBay?
Just on eBay, yeah. So buy parts in Yahoo Japan auction, and then sell to the eBay.com. And I think the price difference was like, I don't know, like maybe 500% or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a good margin.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kept on doing this.
Yeah, I was doing that from 2004 all the way to maybe 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when did you decide to move to the US?
Well, I wanted to move to the States from the beginning. But, of course, the visas and stuff, it wasn't easy, right? And then I finally got my visa in 2008. So that's when I moved to the US. And then, yeah, since then I'm here.
Yeah, getting a visa is very challenging.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you and I talking about
you're in the same boat too.
my visa was back and forth too. So it was, it's very challenging, and it's probably more difficult now than it was back in the when we were trying to get it too. But so 2011, you were able to capture the Formula Drift champion.
Yes.
This was, so it was like
number 8th year.
Eighth year competing, right?
Right.
Tell us about that season.
Well, so ever since I started competing FD, winning the championship was my goal of life at the time, right? Mm-hmm. So it took me 8 years, but there's like a lot of ups and downs. But that year, I think we had the best team, best car, everything. All the stuff went right, and then I was able to win a championship.
What were some of the things that, you said ups and downs? What were some of the things that didn't work until that time?
Well, 2011 was a good year, right? But, one of the big down year was 2009. I was driving the Falcon Tire IS 350. Mm-hmm. It was a brand new drift car, and then we just couldn't figure out the setups, and I was having a hard time driving the car. So the result of the event was always not good. And then I think number 5th or 6th event of that season, I totaled the car. I smashed into the wall. And that was a big one. And, not just losing the car, I lost my confidence, and, it was a big downtime. But 2010, the following year, we got the car that we won the championship. Mm-hmm. But the car was really good, and I was clicking with the car and the team. It's just that the whole year, I think we used as like prepping for the 2011 championship. Mm-hmm. and worked out. Like 2011, like everything went really well, and was able to win the championship.
Were you? Do you think you had a little bit of PTSD after that big wreck? I mean, that wreck is so big that it's not even on the internet. We can't, right?
Yeah,
right?
I think
we can't find it anywhere.
I think the corporation side, like Falcon Tire, Discount Tire, I think they try to delete everything. I don't even have anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the half of that car was gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Basically, I smashed into the wall. I was like over 90 miles per hour. So that was a big, what do you call it? Impact. Right?
Yeah.
But luckily, I didn't get hurt. I think I messed up my neck, and ever since that point, I still have a little sore here and there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But back to your question, I don't really have physically, I don't really have any issues, because once I'm in the driver's seat, I forget all those things. But mentally, I think it's more than physical. I lost confidence, because up until that point, I had good confidence. I'm not gonna wreck the car. I'm never gonna total the car. That kind of thing was away, because I was concentrating driving. But, my mistake totaled the car.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened before too, but, it's been a while that I crashed that hard. And that was actually the biggest
crash you've ever had.
Yeah.
What mistake did you make, though? Do you know?
It's just a timing thing. I was just trying to flick. So, it's the right-hand turn. But, I made a car loose to the left side a little bit, and then use the momentum into the right. But I couldn't flick it back. My excuse is the car was really hard to drive, couldn't make the weight transfer that easy at the time. But it's not like I was driving for the first time, so I should know, but I kind of basically messed up the timing, and then I couldn't flick it back, and the car just basically still sliding to the left side, and then going to the right-hander oval. So meaning I'm basically smashed into the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was I remember that one. And so you used the next season to basically develop the S13, and that was a platform that you were really used to as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah. So how comfortable were you in the S13 compared to the IS?
So 2004 all the way to 2007, I was using the S13. So like you said, I was so familiar with the chassis. And again, the S chassis is just like super straightforward for drifting, right? It's like almost like a basic drift car. And then the team that I was driving for, the Team Parking Tire at the time, and everybody has like a good knowledge. So like literally, I think the car was the most competitive car on the field at the time, and yeah, that was a big advantage for me.
Yeah, this was a time when a lot of the teams were starting to convert or install V8s, right?
Yeah.
As
Swap
well.
motors, yeah.
Do you think you had an advantage with that because you were one of the first, S chassis with the LS7?
Yeah, definitely. Because, well, I think there's a lot of other competitor using the V8 as well, but at the time I think a lot of people are still using SR20 in the 240s.
Yeah,
and it wasn't enough torque. So the V8 basically you can leave in this one gear and use just the throttle you don't have to crutch kick too much, you don't have to downshift, so it just makes the driver easier. And then at the time it's not like a crazy angle, and it wasn't like 1,000 horsepower, it's like a little maybe 2-3 error before, right? So it's just a different type of
how much horsepower did your
the first setup? I think we had like a 500 horsepower, but it was NA, right? So it's so responsive. It's just super easy to drive.
Yeah,
and it was enough to go away from the other competitors most of the time.
Yeah. So what do you think was different for 2011? What was the deciding factor
to
win the championship? Yeah.
No, there's a lot of them, right? But I think biggest thing was I still think the car was good and the team was good, and atmosphere with the team was good. 2009 was a big drop, but we were still in the same team, right? Back to the 2009 wreck, we had a next round in 2 weeks. So I pretty much gave up. Okay, I totaled the car. I don't have a car to compete, right? but my team, especially Scott, who was the crew chief at the time.
Scott Dodgen?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's like, no, we're going to get it done. So he basically found a S13 from Falcon Tire Warehouse. It was like one of the demo car back then or something. And then, he worked 2 weeks straight to prep the car for the next round. But anyways, that kind of energy, that kind of pushed me into like, okay, we're going to do it. But from that point, I think we had a really good energy into the team. And then 2010, used the whole year for develop the car, but also, team getting more like, motivated. And it's just all these factors like into the 2011 was like perfect.
Yeah. So
sorry,
you've always had KW suspension?
Yes.
Yeah. And when did Mike Kojima join your team?
Mike Kojima joined my team in, I think, 2009.
So
that year.
Didn't he come in to fix the issues with
That's right.
right?
Yes. which he did,
Yeah.
After he came in, I think the car got a lot better, but still I wasn't comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was there for the full season for 2010 and 2011, right?
Yes.
So you had, I think you're right. You had a really good group in 2011. And I was lucky enough to, which was sort of like a miracle, because
I was going to say,
I mean, I was able to like document the entire 2011 season.
So I think this question you might be able to answer more than I can, because you're watching right, behind us, and you see the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was really cool to see, and it was fun. It was fun to document the entire season with that, kind of the documentary that we did Behind the Smoke.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, I don't think there was a show like that on YouTube at the time. I think, Falcon and Discount Tire were super supportive and letting us, do that and supporting, that show, the series.
Yeah.
And I think you told me once that like being able to like, because what I would do is like after something would happen, I would like, put you in front of camera and like sort of like do these like, confessionals or reports, right? Basically, and like, okay, how are you feeling now? What was that run about? And you were telling me before that that allowed you to sort of like sort your mind and like clear your head, like where you're at like now, right? So can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So like you're part of that too. That's for sure. Like, because when you're at the event, like you're just like focusing on driving out everything, and it was kind of funny in a way. Like you always interview me, so in a way it's kind of like a distraction sometimes, right? Because I want to concentrate on driving, but
you're like, shut up,
you
Taro.
always like, Taro comes in like, oh, what's up? How are you feeling? But actually that ended up helping me, like kind of like reflect myself and how I really feel and what I need to change to be in the right mental state and stuff like that. So
well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm happy I was able to help you. And
you're actually mentor. Yeah, like you off the camera, you kind of like encourage me quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot too.
Well, I appreciate it. I was just trying to get the shot, man.
Worked out.
I was just trying to tell the story. I mean, you did all the, you did everything else. I mean,
no, but yeah, back to your question. But yeah, Kojima's suspension technology helped, team environment, like KW suspension setup really helps too. But also there's a lot of lucks too. I don't know if you remember, but in Irvindale, my final round.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
But luck is part of it too, though.
Yeah, I got knocked off in top 16, and there's like a 4 or 5 other driver could win the championship, but everybody got knocked out in the right spot. So I barely won a championship, like a few points difference.
Yeah. No, but it was just cool to like throughout the season to interview you and the entire team, because they would also have like different perspectives on what was happening too. Like I would interview Scott, and I would interview Mike, and I would interview Chris Marion from KW. So they would all have like sort of like these different type of like, not just like from their official roles as the chassis engineer or the suspension guy or the the crew chief. They would all have like thoughts on like you, like what your state of mind is, and the whole the best thing about it was like everybody was having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
While we were doing it, is like we weren't like, and no one was taking it. I mean, you guys were all serious about winning the championship, but we had a lot of fun doing it. Like creating like these funny videos about you and the not understanding English and using code words and things like that. And that was just, it was just a lot of fun. Everybody was having fun. So it was a really good time.
Man, it's 2011. It's like 14 years ago. That's
that was a long time ago. Yeah. So you had that great season, right?
Yeah.
And when did you start like exploring like other driving. I know you always wanted to do other driving, other forms of racing. When did you get your first opportunity to do something else besides drifting?
I think back in 2007 or something, I did my first time attack event. And from there on, like whenever I have opportunity, did time attack. And I think 2011, I had a little wheel-to-wheel racing opportunity with Mike Kojima's car. So yeah, slowly, like, it wasn't like every year, but yeah, like time attack, wheel-to-wheel, yeah.
And you won a time attack. You won a couple of time attack champions, right?
Yeah, I don't know how you call as a champion, but I think the biggest first time attack achievement was 2015. We broke the front wheel drive record in Button Willow.
That's right.
With the Spoon Sports USA FT2 Civic.
Yeah, that was a long kept record though.
Yeah, I think it's been like a 5-6 years or even more.
Was that Chris Rado's?
Chris Rado's, crazy, record.
Right. And you've done a bunch of time attacks since then too, though.
Yes. Yeah. I think I won a few more here and there.
And how about endurance racing? You started endurance racing with Spoon sometime around that time as well, right?
I think 2012 or 13, it was the first time be one of the driver for Thunderhill 25 hours. You were there too, right? Yeah. And then I've done like 2 more Thunderhill with Spoon since then.
Yeah, and you also did. Didn't you go to Super Taikyuu?
Yeah,
right.
Only one round in Fuji in Japan.
Yeah,
in their S2000. Yeah.
So what's the biggest difference? I mean, there's a really big difference between drifting and endurance racing, but like going into an event, like what is the biggest difference between like drifting, where you have like one short burst of like focus, and endurance racing, where you have to be like focused for a very, 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 very long time?
Yeah, there's so many difference, but I think the major thing is, like you said, drifting is you only have like one shot, and it's only like 30 seconds to 60 seconds. It's such a short time, but you have to do perfect in every single round too, because once you made a mistake, you don't have a next round, right? So in a way, drifting is so intense because there's no room for mistake, period, right? But the road racing, especially endurance, you have hours, could be even longer. So you have to concentrate that long time. That's another thing. That's a different challenge. But the difference is you have some time to make it up. If you have a little mistake, of course you can't crash. If you go off the track, it might be a big loss. But if you make a little mistake here and there, you have time to make up. So that's a big difference, actually.
Driving technique wise, was it hard for you first to go from drifting to suddenly, having to grip?
Yeah, so drifting and grip driving is two opposite way of driving, right?
Right.
Yeah, of course, I had a hard time, especially I only knew about drifting in the beginning. I think most people are starting from grip driving first and then converted to drift. So it might be a little different, but I have a few habit that you're not supposed to do in a grip driving. So it took me a little while to delete that habit.
What kind of habits?
For example, like, in drifting, of course, we still use, same type of racing line, right? Mm-hmm. You initiate and you take apex. But because drifting is starting way prior to, before the turn, mm-hmm. So the habit is like turning in too early.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
So
because you want the tail to get loose, right? Yeah.
I think I still have that kind of habit.
Okay. You're turning in too early?
Turning a little too early, yeah.
Okay, so you have to be careful you don't turn in too early because your tendency is to have the tail.
No,
get
it's
loose?
not that. It's not. It's more like the fastest way to, because the grip driving, basically the goal is to go, from A to B the shortest time as possible, right? But I think certain turn, if you initiate too early, if you turn in too early, it ended up losing some time.
Yeah. Do you think let me phrase it this way, like when you've done a lot of like racing now, right? You did a full season last year, for example.
I wouldn't say a lot, but yeah, good amount.
Yeah, a good amount of road racing now.
Yeah.
You did the Michelin Pilot Challenge last year, full season.
Yep.
You've done Super Trofeo as well, right?
Yep.
Were there times when your drifting experience like saved you from crashing, or like was an advantage for you, like in the rain? Or
to be honest, I get that question a lot. Not really.
Really?
Like a lot of people think like, when it starts raining or something, oh, you're a drifter, you must be, good and you must be easy to control. But it's not really the case, because sliding the race car, the grip vehicle, versus like a sliding drift car is completely different. Because drift car, we set up the car to be able to slide the whole time, right? But the grip car is opposite. And when you're driving the grip driving, I mean the race car, the goal is to go as fast as you can. And yeah, when you slide, it gets slower.
Right.
But anyway, sorry, back to your question. That drifting experience really didn't help.
Really?
To be honest, yeah, that's how I feel. I don't know. I want to ask other people who do drifting and grip driving.
Right.
But in my case, it didn't really help.
Which do you think is harder, going from, learning the grip discipline first and trying drifting, or starting from drifting like you did and going to grip?
I think it depends, right? I only did that way, right? So I don't know the other way around. But I know some driver really good at both. Starting from grip driving, some like, I don't know, like F1 driver or something can just drift right away too. But it's all depending on the driver, right? So yes, it's hard to answer your question. But some people, maybe, if you like concentrate on like going fast so much, I think sliding is just like hush hush, right? So I think those people, they don't have any, what do you call it? Like anything in their knowledge, or, they can't really function when it gets sideways.
Once it gets sideways, yeah.
But some natural driver can adapt right away, either way,
Like rally drivers, I think, are really, good at drifting right away, right? Because they're just so used to, and they're used to grip driving as well, because they can like.
Yeah, they still have to go fast, right?
Yeah. How do you think drifting has changed, though, since, like when you won the championship in 2011 and it's 2025 now? Do you still follow drifting?
Yeah, of course. I still watch live stream when I can. It's been changed quite a bit. I think after 2011, I think, 2012, so basically the horsepower of the car got a lot more higher. At the time, 2011, I think like 500-600 horsepower was still good enough. But 2012, 13, I think most people are starting to have like almost 1,000 horsepower.
Daigo came.
Oh yeah, so basically Daigo kind of changed the game at the time.
Yeah.
And also the angle of drifting is much larger. A lot of company having the steering angle kit.
Yeah, the Wise Fab.
Yeah. And a lot of cars has a lot of more angle. So use the power to, and still, it's a tandem format, right? So whoever leads wants to go fast, and whoever wants to follow. So they try to set the car up as fast as they can. But when you do that, and keep the sideways, you need power. So I think a lot of cars at the time, and nowadays too. It's a drift car, but they make the car a lot tight, meaning like a lot of traction, but use the horsepower to overcome and still be able to sideways.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that you actually need a lot of traction. You need really, really good tires to go drifting, right?
Yeah, nowadays pro drift, yes. I think it's still the same way, and then it just become more and more competitive. I'm not really familiar with like these days setup or anything, but it's more angle the better, more smokes the better, and of course, it's just getting just more and more, and then the tandem. If you see the tandem, a lot of tandems battle, the proximity is much tighter.
Yeah. It's ridiculous how close they are these days. Yeah. How would you describe your driving style
for drifting? I think my driving style was known as a smooth driver. I think I was pretty fast too, but
you had one of the fastest entry times all the time though. When you like in 2011,
yeah. But I think towards the end of my FD career, I think I was still smooth. But games getting changed, right? Like proximity is getting tighter and tighter. I think I was one of the easiest guy to follow because I'm so smooth.
You're too smooth.
Yeah, my movement wasn't jerky. So I think that was my reputation. So in a way, it was easy to beat.
Oh, okay.
And,
how was it towards the end of your? Well, okay. So which year did you retire?
2021 was my last year.
Okay. So you did a whole decade after your championship.
Yeah.
You won the champion.
Exactly.
So you were pretty much in the BRZ most of the time, right? After that, right? So how was that platform compared to after you retired the S13?
I think we had a little hard time first couple of years, but I think towards the end, I think the car was pretty good, pretty competitive. But I think my season result wasn't great. 2011 was definitely my peak, right? And then I tried to beat that season, but after 10 years, I didn't have that opportunity. So sorry, what was your question?
What was different?
How was the towards the end of the career, right?
Yeah.
I think I was still pretty good on the qualifying. So nowadays I know they don't really do a qualifying, but at the time still had a qualifying format. So in qualifying you drive single by yourself, and then they give you the criteria like lines and angles and so you just drive the way the judges want. And I'm always qualifying pretty high, all the way up until 2011 season. But it comes down to tandem, I wasn't that strong. Again, I think I was easy guy to follow, so a lot of people were just like following really well.
You're too nice.
Yeah. In a way, I guess I was too nice, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you said, I think, I don't know which interview it was, but you were saying that like someone was asking you like, how do you become like a successful like race car driver or something like that? And you said, well, even before being fast or whatever, like being nice is like one of the most important things that you have to be aware of. Do you remember answering?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's a depending on the aspect, right? That totally right for to get a support from other people, like especially sponsorship and corporation. But if I say that to like as a driver,
maybe not on the track.
You have to be asshole.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing I need even now too. I think a lot of successful race car driver on track, they care only about themselves, and in a way they just
you sort of have to be an asshole, don't you? Yeah. One place you don't have to be an asshole is Pikes Peak. because you're on your own.
Right.
You're on your own, right?
You're right. That's actually completely opposite. If you be an asshole, yeah, you're not gonna do well.
You're not going to do. Yeah, you're done.
You gotta respect a lot of different things.
Yes, yes. You have to respect the mountain. You have to respect, everything.
Everything.
Out there.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to challenge this monumental task, monumental mountain?
Well, Pikes Peak was a very known event in Japan, right?
Yes.
Like especially back in 80s and 90s, and
Monster.
Yeah. But I remember I watched on TV back in 90s or 80s. So ever since I've known that event, back in my head, I wanted to do at some point.
Yeah. It's really big in Japan.
Yeah.
Like Monster Tajima, obviously, Mitsubishi, did really good. And then I remember like Ken Gushi's dad, right? He came to America because he wanted to do Pikes Peak. I mean, that's how big it is, right, in Japan.
Right. But yeah, so anyways, I wanted to do that at some point, and then one year I was teaming up with Reese Millen, who's known as like a Pikes Peak family. His dad did a lot.
Yes.
He himself did a lot in Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
So 2008, I was driving for Reese Millen's team in FD.
Right.
So I became really close friend with Reese. And that year,
the Pontiac GTO.
Yeah, that year.
Yeah.
I went to Pikes Peak with him just to check out, and I think he won his class or something, but yeah, I wanted to do it, but of course it costs some money and you need a team for that. So I didn't really have opportunity all the way to 2019. So actually like almost more than 10 years later, I finally had opportunity with Evasive Motorsports, who already done 3 or 4 Pikes Peak in the past, and then having a Town 14 distribution and Ineos Oil sponsor the team and myself, and then that was my finally opportunity for the Pikes Peak.
That was your first one.
Yeah, my first one.
How many times did you challenge until you won the Unlimited Championship?
It was actually the second year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many times have you done Pikes Peak?
I've done 5 times so far. And 2019 all the way to 2023. And last year I didn't do it.
Okay.
Because of the conflict with the IMSA event.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you approach Pikes Peak differently compared to other forms of driving that you do?
Yeah. It's completely different type of motorsports, right? The biggest thing is it's the street, and it's not just the street. It's a mountain road, and then it's like 14,000 feet. So yeah, basically the track condition is changing all the time. First of all, it's not really prepped for driving, so there's a lot of bumps, dust. And then, more than anything, it's got 156 turns. So you have to remember every single turns. Otherwise, you can't really push, right?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference between driving on a truck.
Have you ever had a time when you're driving Pikes Peak and you're like, okay, this turn is this turn, and then you turn it, and then it's a different turn?
I actually study enough not to have that moment.
Oh, really? Okay.
But there's a lot of corner or the section looks alike
because it's very similar.
Right? So
there are no cones telling you where to brake, and
not really. Yeah. So I get confused here and there, but never had a moment that it's gonna be
like left. Oh yeah. Other way. Okay.
So I watch a lot of in-car video before the first event. And then I did the sim, but more than sim, I think the watching somebody else's in-car video helped a lot.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to the mountain twice before the race week, rent a car, and then just up and down all day for like a couple days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right. Because with your race car, you don't get to drive from the bottom all the way to the top in practice. In that race, they divide it up into sections, right? So you never know what you're going to get from the beginning to the end until your final run on the final day.
And that only happens once a year.
Yeah.
Unless I guess these days, like some manufacturer like rent out the track or the mountain, and some people did other than the race day, which I don't know why they do that, to be honest. But but yeah, that's one of the hardest thing about Pikes Peak. You only have one chance in 1 year.
Do you think your Toge, Hashiriya days helped you with any of the Pikes Peak? Because you're in the mountains of Hachioji.
Yeah.
Right. If you make a wrong turn, I mean, there's guardrails, but you could fall off the cliff, right? Right. Do you think any of that helped?
Again, I don't think it really helps. I mean, to get my, to get my interest. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest, because if you're gonna be, I mean, of course, to just drive a little bit, of course helps. Like, let's say, like first time I'm in Pikes Peak and do some practice, maybe helps a little bit. But on the race, and especially if you want to win the class or win the event, you gotta go really fast.
Right.
So to get to that level, my Toge days doesn't really help at all.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like way more advanced level of driving or preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for a race like that? Like physically, like the air is, the air is pretty thin up at the top, right? Like obviously your car has to be set up right, but do you have to physically be prepared for something like that?
Honestly, it's not really in my mind. I don't know. Maybe some other competitor really try to prep for it. The reason is because we have the oxygen bottle. So even though air is thinner, I don't have any issue with getting oxygen.
Oh, okay.
Right. And it's only about 10 minutes.
Right.
So it's still considered short driving.
Right.
So I think most people has no issue to focus that long.
Right.
Of course, your heart rate gets high, you get nervous. So it's not really easy condition. But physically, I was able to manage that 10 minutes, no problem.
Yeah, it's more the spectators and the photographers that have to be up there all day, because my guys that were up there were getting headaches, and they were like, especially if because you have to wake up like super early to go there too, so you're not sleeping all day. You're like up there like sitting on the side of the hill for a very, very long time, all day, because once you're up there you can't come down anymore,
right?
Because the race is going on.
Yeah.
So if you get altitude sickness up there, you're kind of stuck, right?
True. Yeah. So I guess those are the more challenge, like adapting yourself into that altitude. So and usually people stay at the Colorado Springs, which is already high.
Yeah. And
I usually spend a day before moving up the mountain, and then slowly getting, having myself used to. Yeah.
So when you won the championship at Pikes Peak, which car did you drive?
I drove Evasive Motorsports FRS, or the GT86.
What was different that year? What was a major factor that you think?
To be honest, it was a COVID year, so a little less attendance. Maybe I should cut this part because taking up my credit. But I mean, that's one of the facts. But also,
don't be so honest. See, that's why they say you're too nice now.
Okay, cut this. But yeah, that was my second year, and then that was maybe like a fifth year with the for the team to challenge Pikes Peak.
Right.
So I kind of know what it takes, and the team knows. And then the previous year, my first year, we had a mechanical issue. So we had a good pace, but we had a rear end issue, so we couldn't finish the race.
Yeah.
But the team prep much better for the 2020, and then yeah, we had an issue in the practice day, but again, there's a lot of lucks as well, but we were able to finish pretty strong and won the class.
Yeah. That's awesome. Are you doing Pikes Peak this year?
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
It's not 100% yet. We're still working on the sponsorship and everything, but we're still working on. I mean, we're trying to get back on the Pikes Peak this year, and because I'm not doing the full season in IMSA, IMSA always conflict with the race week.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a bummer that we couldn't run last year, but hopefully this year.
No, that's good.
We'll be back. Yeah.
And for IMSA, you're doing part season only this year?
Yes, only 2 rounds so for now.
Okay.
I've just done Daytona a couple of weeks ago, and then I'm gonna do Mid Ohio. So those are the 2 races, 4 hour. Usually the race is 2 hours. So those 4-hour race, the team can have a third driver. So I'm just participating as a third driver this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So last year was your first full season driving IMSA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was you're telling me about some of the challenges of doing the full, IMSA season last year. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah. So what was your question? Like the difference?
You said, you said, first of all, the driving, like you said that it was like the level of driving was much higher than you had ever experienced in the past. You've done a lot of driving, but you said that it was like, I'm still learning, at this age, I'm still learning like how to become faster.
Right. Well, yeah, road racing is another thing, right? And then the IMSA race, like I said, it's a usually 2-hour race, and then it done with the two driver. So the driving is one thing, but driver change and pit strategy, we change tires and add fuels.
Which car and which team were you?
I was driving for Montreal Motorsports Group with the Civic TCR. But yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so
the difference.
Yeah, the difference and the most challenging part about endurance racing.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, but I think one of the thing is the tire management. So basically, it's a front wheel drive car, right? So we use front wheel a lot, like all the energy, because the front wheel moves and also turns and it brakes, right? So the front wheel, we use a lot of the tires.
Yes.
And Michelin has a really nice slick tires, but to be able to last hour in a good shape, you have to kind of manage how you drive.
Yes.
So that kind of little stuff, and also like again, like pit strategy, like when to pit in, when to driver change, and also the fuel as well. To fuel up the car, it takes time.
Yes.
So basically from 0 to like a full tank, it takes like 50 something seconds with the restrictor, right? Because it needs to have like a certain time. So because that's also the strategy of the race. So sometimes we have to manage the fuel too. So we go in a race space, but try to save the fuel here and there. So that kind of stuff was totally new to me. Like I didn't know how they
saving fuels, saving tire for you too, right?
Yeah,
all new.
Because time attack, you're basically fully on.
Yeah,
like
drifting, you slay all tires, right?
Yes, just use the whole tire in the one lap.
Yeah.
But the IMSA or all those racing, you have to manage it. Yeah, so that was kind of biggest different task that I faced.
How do you save tires?
Try not to have a wheel spin. That's the main thing, right? Especially front wheel drive car, when you exit, you step on the gas, especially low speed turns, you kind of slip here and there. But try to manage that. Use the throttle more like nice and smooth and stuff like that. Yeah.
I see. So physically, you said being in the car for a long time too. Though you're mentioning that your heart rate was going up too, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So most of my life I've done drifting mainly, right? And honestly, I never work out at the time.
You were working out?
Not really. I don't think so.
Really?
I don't really work out until like maybe a few years ago.
Okay.
Because in drifting, I mean, mentally,
Yeah.
of course, it's better to work out, right?
Yeah.
So nowadays, FD driver, I think, a lot of people are doing the workout and stuff.
Yeah, look at Matt Field.
Yeah, I know, right? But in my era, because especially I came from like, back to your starting the conversation, like I'm not from go-kart or, traditional racing kind of guy, right? I'm just like, medium class family and starting drifting as a hobby on the street. So, working out is like not in like my thing.
Right.
But anyways, it was fine when I was in drifting,
right?
Because it's such a short amount of driving time.
Yeah.
But now I look back, if I have more stamina throughout the day,
right?
Because even though the driving time is so short, top 16 or top 32 to all the way to final, it's like hours, right?
Yeah.
You're not driving the whole time, but your stamina is getting less for sure.
Yes.
But if you have a like good worked out body, I'm pretty sure you can focus more.
You can focus more, yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
So that's why I think people are working out.
Right.
But anyways, I didn't do that. And then, now doing the road racing, in the car for like hour and driving the race pace the whole time. I don't think it's physically like steering wheels or the, step on the gas, that really using my energy, but I think mentally using, or like, anyways, somehow like my heart rate is always high.
Like because you're focusing for so long?
I guess, right? Yeah. So in drifting, I didn't realize because it's such a short time. But if I'm driving for that long, like it's like crazy heart rate, and meaning you're sweating so much and tiring quickly.
Right. So like, are you exhausted by the time you finish your stint?
Yeah. And my race suit is like soaking wet. And I think, throughout a couple of years, it's getting better, but still, I sweat a lot.
How about like doing the, 10-minute run at Pikes Peak though? Were you like that after you finished your run?
Yeah, for sure. But 10 minutes is not that long, right? So, like I said, I was able to manage, right? But in the same states in the body, right? For like another like 50 minutes,
But you've done like, 1 hour, maybe 2 hour, like at Thunderhill, you did long stints.
Right. You're right. Yeah. So I think very beginning, that's the time I think I realized. I remember I was like sweating and.
Oh, at Thunderhill?
But the Thunderhill was cold weather, right?
Yeah.
It's usually still, like a December at the time.
Yeah. Well, it's also grassroots. Too,
so it's not. And then the way Spoon Sports strategy was. Try to save the car.
Right.
So we're not like fully on the pace.
Right.
Meaning, I wasn't like crazy focused.
Right.
So much easier, I guess.
Yeah. So the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge it's endurance racing, but you're still pretty much, full on, right? The whole time.
Full on,
right. Yeah.
And then you have to wear, aware about a lot of different things. Other cars and race condition, and pit, communicating with the pit. So those just using up my mental focus, and then bump up my heart rate quickly, right? Yeah. And then it just keeps going for an hour, and then after that, like it's like a dead body.
So you have like like an Apple Watch or something that's monitoring you?
Yeah. And usually like 180, 175.
Oh my God. So you're looking at your data afterwards, and it's
afterwards.
like, Oh my God. Okay.
But anyways, that's why last few years I run and I do like a little workout, and I think it helps a little bit.
Yeah, you have to come work out with us now. You really do. Or jiu-jitsu, like I do.
Oh, I don't want to get hurt.
No, I mean, I'm not being like a Joe Rogan or anything with jiu-jitsu, but like with jiu-jitsu, you have to learn to remain calm when someone like big is like on top of you.
Oh.
So it's really good for like that kind of situation where your heart rate, you have to, like once your heart rate starts going up, like it's the same like when you're surfing, for example, right?
Yeah.
When you're surfing and you're like being like, you haven't gone surfing with us for a long time,
yes.
but like when we used to go surfing, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, a big wave takes you and you're like held down underneath, the worst thing you can do is like panic, right? So you have to learn to like sort of like hold your breath, but relax and sort of let the waves like wash you around and wait until you pop up back up.
That's
right?
what I heard.
Yeah.
I was still, in that, struggle strategy.
Yeah, exactly. If you panic underwater, you're using up all your oxygen too. So it gets like your heart rate just goes up and then you're done. So you kind of have to like learn to relax.
So jiu-jitsu helped that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because because like, especially like when you're starting out, you have these guys that are way better than you.
Oh.
Right. And you are being put in really, really bad positions, right? Positions where you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Like, that when someone was like sitting on your chest or like, like has your back and trying to strangle you, you have to learn to relax, because if you panic, you're using up all your strength and you're not going to be able to get out of the situation. So like you have to learn to like use the techniques to get out of those situations, because there are ways to get out of like bad situations. You just like have to learn to relax and execute.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like being a white belt is a really good experience, because you have guys that are like really, they're better than you, right? And they might not be physically, bigger and, or heavier than you.
Yeah.
But they just know more about technique and leverage. So when they're sitting on top of you, or they're trying to like, they're on your chest or your stomach, or, you have your back taking.
Yeah.
You really just have to learn to relax and just like do the things that you're supposed to do to get out of those positions. But if you panic, the first thing you have to learn is not to panic.
Right.
You have to learn to like just like relax, even if you're in a shitty position, and just like execute the moves to get out of those positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know.
Yeah. I mean, it's very humbling, right? Because like you're like an adult, and you're like, you have this another adult male, like, because like as dudes, we don't like to, like, generally we don't like to be basically dominated by other men, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's just a natural thing. So like the first thing you have to learn is that you're just going to get your ass kicked for a while, right? And you have to learn to accept that and learn to relax and be cool with being in a bad position. You have to sort of get used to being in a really, really stressful, bad situation.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what like jiu-jitsu has taught me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because, like I did judo for a long time.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest difference, because judo is more like drifting. Judo is like standing up, and it's very like all impact, right? So you're never like in a really, really bad position for a long time. Like if you're in a bad position in judo, you're going to get thrown and it's done. You don't have to struggle that long.
I see.
Yeah, judo is like you're standing and then boom, you get thrown and you're done. It's like really fast. When you lose, it's really fast. But in jiu-jitsu, when you're losing, it's painful and long, because someone is like basically dominating you for a long time, and they're like moving up, and they're getting close to your neck, and your arm's getting taken, and eventually they're going to choke you out, or get you in some kind of an arm lock or joint lock. So like in jiu-jitsu, you have to be used to being in a really, really bad situation. In judo, you really don't have to because you lose like right away. The rules are different, So
okay.
I never really thought about like judo being close to drifting and jiu-jitsu being more like endurance racing, but it's sort of similar like that in that sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think you should do jiu-jitsu.
That's all you wanted to say.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Yeah. Well, you don't come drifting. You don't come surfing with us anymore. So at least maybe you can come. Maybe you can come jiu-jitsu. Okay. Let's switch gears just a little bit. So you've worked with many sponsors, right? You've had very good relationships with many sponsors throughout the years. What do you think the key for you is to build, long-lasting brand relationships?
With the sponsorship?
Yeah.
Bottom line, you gotta be, you gotta make a good relationship with them, right? And then always try to over-deliver. Try to understand what they're looking for, and then try to deliver more than supposed to. And I think that's the bottom thing that we could do from our point.
Have you ever messed up? Like in that sense? Like with the brand?
I don't think I have ever messed up. I'm always, even though like discontinued the sponsorship, I don't think I ever left in a bad term. At least in my head, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then I don't think I never, it's not like I can over deliver all the time. Sometimes I'm on short for something, but try to make up in the next opportunity or something. And I always try to make them happy.
I feel like your brand relationships have been very long-term most of the time. Like many of the brands, stick with you for a very long time. And I feel like they really tried to help you too in your like endeavors. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm super lucky for that.
Yeah. Why do you think you've been able to build these relationships though?
Well, yeah, like I say, try to make a good relationship first, right? And then just be nice and, no tricks.
Yeah.
It's just, just
nothing fancy.
Not Oh, you think like I'm like, giving some like a backdoor money or something?
No. But what's the secret, right?
Yeah, there's
because
no
like
secret.
There are many drivers, for example, or many, I don't know, social media creators or influencers that work with brands, and maybe they can't keep the brands, with them for a long time. But you've been able to build your career with a lot of long-term relationships, right?
Yeah, I think those people who can't do that, maybe they're too greedy or something. They try to take advantage in a certain situation, right? I think something like that. Like, I'm just doing normal thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure you're the same way too. Just try to deliver what they want, and that's it. And try not to like take up money and then not doing what they need, and of course they're gonna be like, what the hell, right?
Yeah, Tanner was saying something very similar to that as well. Yeah, when I interviewed him,
I think he's kind of similar way to approach.
Yeah,
them myself, right?
Yeah. Do you think your upbringing in Japan has anything to do with how you approach not just brands, but like your teammates and your fans? Like how you, I feel like you are very authentic always in the way you like approach, like if a fan comes and asks for an autograph, or like I've been watching you through many of your events and things like that. But do you think your upbringing in Japan has anything to do with that?
Upbringing?
Yeah, like growing up in Japan. Like you're always pretty humble.
Like my character?
Yeah.
Is it because I'm from Japan?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, that's the fact, right? I'm from Japan, but it's not really a Japanese thing. I think it's just my character, and I know the fact I need help, I need support to do anything, right? So I never feel like I can do myself. So, for example, team, I usually work with the people for long term too, because I feel like it's a team. I mean, like literally like a team, like, in a life.
Yeah.
That's why, to me, like a relationship between, the crew or even like sponsors, it's very important. Like I have to be comfortable. They need to be comfortable working with me. So I think I'm always making sure that portion, and in a way, I only work with the people who I like. Not to be a picky, but it's kind of like it naturally happens that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a Japanese thing. It's just the way I like to approach, I guess.
Yeah. So I think you have your kind of your own visual style, like too. With your relationship, I think you have your own sort of like, even though you might not be able to define it clearly, I think like your style in terms of like your aesthetics, like your clothing, for example, your design with your suit and your helmet and things like that in your car.
Yeah.
You've always sort of had your own like, take on that, right? I think.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah,
like race car, a lot of times it's
up to the team.
Up to the team, the sponsors. But yeah.
How do you think you developed your own style though? Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think that came naturally? Because you've always had a unique style.
Do I?
Yeah. I mean, you were like unique. You were like, like girl pants and things like that sometimes.
That I think is more like I follow more like a Japanese fashion over the US fashion. And then I think the Japanese, maybe I'm gonna have like a hater, but I think Japanese people more おしゃれなんていうんだ。
Yeah, おしゃれね。Yeah.
だと思うんですよ。
Fashionable.
Yeah, I think they care the fashion more than in general. I'm sorry. I don't want to be
Yeah. Japanese people are very fashionable. They're very fashion conscious.
So like you say, certain things like people think, that's like our parents and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But in Japan, that's normal.
Yeah, I remember Scott Dodgen, because he's like a total American, bro type guy.
Yeah.
Right? So your crew chief was like, he picked up his phone one day. He's like, hello. And then, Dai, come over here. Your sister wants to talk to you. She wants her pants back. And you're like, well, I don't have a sister.
Yeah.
And you took the phone.
I still get that from other people too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I guess the way I wear stuff is maybe like a little feminine, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think is like in Tokyo, it's normal though.
Yeah.
Right.
So back to your question. I think I look those Japanese culture more than the US side. That's why maybe it's different. Yeah. You say unique. Oh, I didn't know I was unique. But,
no,
okay.
I think you have your own kind of style though.
Okay.
Right? Which makes you unique though, right? That's why I think a lot of people, love you so much.
Oh.
Yeah, as a they look up to you.
Cool.
So looking up to you makes you a public figure, right? So you are sort of like, you've become popular. I don't think you ever expected to, like growing up, I don't think you ever wanted to be like a popular guy, right? You wanted to just drive, right? Yep. You're that kind of guy. How has that balance been throughout your career? Like being the guy that has to be on camera and the public guy and the guy at home. Like, do you ever struggle with that a little bit, or how's that?
I mean, bottom line, like you say, me. I don't like to be in front of people or camera. Like that's, since day one, I don't like it.
You've gotten so good at it, though. You've gotten so good at
that's
speaking.
What you say. Some people tell me, which is great, but that part of me hasn't been changed. Like anytime I have opportunity, like even like today, I'm not really super relaxed, to be honest. It's just my character, and I can't really help it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's. But you're right. I guess I'm getting more used to it, so it's not as big
You're
deal
way more comfortable now
than before.
Yeah.
But yeah, the nowadays though, like social medias, the algorithm changes, and you have to be out.
Yeah.
Right, and then that's still,
which is sort of painful at times.
It is, and I'm still struggling, and the part of the reason why I'm getting those like driving opportunities and sponsors and stuff, because I have social media following, right?
Yes.
And yeah, these days I'm having a hard time to like what kind of content I can put on, because I'm not the kind of guy like, oh, what's up guys? I'm here, I'm not, I mean, I guess I have to do it.
Yeah.
But those are the contents like getting more engagement these days. So yeah, that's something I have to try and maybe, yeah.
Well, I think there are ways to do it without being, that guy, because I know, that you're at the beginning, for example, you're extremely uncomfortable talking into the camera. I was showing the RACER social media guys like the first and second episode of Behind the Smoke.
Oh, wow.
And you can hardly talk. I mean, it's like, you can talk. I mean, but that's how we made the show, right? Of you like messing up so many times, right? So that's sort of became your character, and we made that in part of like the show and your sort of the way, we didn't hide that. So I think that's one of the reasons why, the show did so well, because you were yourself, right, on camera.
Interesting.
But it's, I think it's hard for everybody though. I think it's not like even like influencers that are on and YouTubers that are on camera every single day, they sort of burn out. There's a burnout. There's a point when it just becomes like too much, and the line between the public face and the private life becomes like so blurred that they don't even know how to act, right?
You kind of have to show everything, right?
Yeah. And
but what do you feel, by the way? Sorry, let me ask you a question.
What?
I always feel like you're comfortable on the camera or, talking in front of people. But do you still, like, what do you
like? Do I get nervous?
Like you do you have an uncomfortable feeling?
Yeah. I mean, when I first, like right now, it's hard to imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I didn't like set out, growing up wanting to be on camera, or I never thought that I'd be, hosting podcasts and being on camera when I was like growing up or anything. That's not what I, So when I was first in front of the camera, this was like way back when we were doing like a Tokyo Auto Salon report for Best Motoring.
Yeah, I remember those days.
I didn't know how to do it at all. It was like, I can't even watch it. I'm so embarrassed to watch those videos. It's terrible. It's absolutely garbage. I mean, so I had to like sort of like train myself to, be comfortable on camera. It's not, the jiu-jitsu thing, but, you just have to like sort of like block that part out. And, some people are like naturally okay in front of
I thought you were one of those.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. I'm not naturally okay with it. I had to sort of like take that part that's like uncomfortable and like self-conscious and like shy.
Yeah.
And I had to like sort of put it away, like when I'm on camera.
Wow.
But like, like guys like Matt Farah, they're like great. They're like, they shine on when the camera's on them. I'm not naturally that guy either.
I see. I see.
I had to sort of like, train myself to be okay on camera. But I think a lot of people are like that too.
Yeah, I hear that too.
Yeah, it's not like a lot of rock stars, for example, they're so shy that they can't even look into the stage when they first started, and then they do it more often, and they do it as the more they do it, they get used to it.
Yeah.
And then they take a lot of drugs and they become fine.
Even easier.
Yeah, right. But but being a race car driver, it's kind of like, you can't be on drugs and you can't be, drunk, when you're performing. So all right. So, okay, public figure, that part. Cool. So, what's next? What are your plans for this year, and new challenges or projects coming up? What's going on?
So this year is a little change. I mean, every year, what I do is like every year is like a looking for new thing kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this year I wanted to do the Michelin Pilot Challenge full season, but I just couldn't get the enough amount of sponsorship. So I only do 2 races, and then
For now.
and then if anybody want to support me, please let me know. But
Dai at daiyoshihara.com. Follow Dai on Instagram.
Yes, please. But yeah, so outside of that, try to do some build with the
builds, yes.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think we can talk about it yet, but you're kind of part of it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a build.
Racer's a media partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what else?
That's an exciting one, though.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the past builds that you've done before we go. Like you've done a bunch of besides racing and drifting.
Yeah.
You're sort of automotive lifestyle culture creator as well, right? So you are. That's what you are. You build cars for SEMA. You've built several cars for SEMA.
Yes.
Which one's your favorite one you've done so far?
That's a tough one, but the R33.
Okay.
Yeah,
the Dai 33.
Dai 33. Yeah. That was one of the nice one.
That was a good one. Yeah. Where do those cars go?
It's a kind of sensitive subject, but I think the car is on sale right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some car, owned by somebody.
Okay.
Because not necessarily it's owned by me. I own
Sometimes,
the 86R.
Okay.
Which was the SEMA built in 2019.
Is that the one with the S2000 engine in it?
It's a FK8 engine.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm still gonna try to campaign the car this year as well.
Okay.
Go to the event like Grid Life or some local events. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And then you have a new build this year.
Yes.
That you're doing. Yeah. Which we will announce in time.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So SEMA and Grid Life, you're basically going to be at most of these events, right?
Yeah, I think especially local events and some outside of the state, of course. But nothing's clearly planned at the moment.
Right now, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's still February, beginning of February, so we still have plenty of time.
Pikes Peak as well.
Yes.
That's a plan too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which motorsport would you like to do if you had ever had a chance to do?
I still want to do the road racing.
Okay.
I mean, I want to do everything, but you kind of told a little bit earlier. Like I feel like I'm still learning, and of course, in any motorsports, like even if I go back to drifting, I'm gonna learn something new. But in a way, I feel like I already peaked out in drifting. But the road racing is still new, even though I'm like old. But I started so late, right? So I'm like absorbing, learning a lot every event. So like I felt I'm evolving, improving last year.
Okay.
So that's the feeling you want to get, right?
Yeah. That's good.
For that, I want to do like IMSA or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Because your times were improving, right? And your performance was improving throughout the season.
Yeah. Performance wise, and Norwich, and I haven't had that feeling in a long time.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Like I see drifting, 2011 win the championship and try to, better the year for that after 10 years. But it's like, you know what I mean? So, but last year in IMSA, I feel like I became a challenger again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. What's like then a dream project that you would like to do, like in terms of racing?
Dream project?
Yeah, like if you had any chance you can go race anywhere, what would you do?
Oh, I guess if there's no budget limited, I want to do like a GT3 cars.
Okay.
if the money is not an issue.
Yeah.
Some sort of GT3 race, you know, it could be a WeatherTech, it could be SRO. I mean, I got to start from somewhere, but yeah.
Okay.
That'd be dope.
All right. Well, it's a good thing I'm at Racer now. So
yeah, if you have any opportunities, let me know.
We got some, we got a video project that we're working on right now with Racer in collaboration with Dai's Instagram and your social channels. So I think, you know, your fans are going to be able to, you're going to be able to answer some of the fans' questions too in these series. So it'll be interesting, and we can start here. If you want to leave questions for Dai, we could maybe answer them on camera in a later date. Well, Dai, thanks for your time. It's been super fun catching up with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
Let's close this then. What we do with all of our guests is we ask the same question, actually.
Oh.
Yes. If you've watched any of our podcasts until the very, very end, you would know. You would know, but he hasn't watched any of our episodes until the very, very end. But
I'm not ready for that.
Yes. Okay. So that's why you don't know. We ask all of our guests,
okay,
what is your creative drive? It's the name of the podcast.
Oh, what is my creative drive?
Yes.
Can you translate?
What is your creative drive? So what inspires you to build or to do the things that you do? What drives you? What is your motivation?
I think it kind of back to what I say just now. Like if you feel like you're improving,
yes,
and you want to be there, and then you can feel you're moving towards that.
Yes.
So that's what I like.
Your evolution.
Evolution, yes.
I see. Well, Dai Yoshihara, thanks for your time. Thanks for being on the Creative Drive. It was always great to catch up with you, man.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching and listening to The Creative Drive, where we offer listeners a candid look into the minds of automotive creators and their journeys. The Creative Drive is available on all podcast platforms, and we have more awesome guests lined up for you guys, so please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you're interested in partnering with us, or if you have any feedback, please email us at podcast@RACER.com or DM us in our Instagram. The Creative Drive is produced by Molly Binks from Racer Studio, directed by TJ Keon, creative director George Tamayo, and edited by Andrew Snyder. We've got New Nick, OG Nick, and Morgan on the socials. I'm your host, Taro Koki. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.